my quantum shift didn't happen until when I was 38, well beyond making over $100 million, losing it. But for me, this quantum shift of my health, taking care of myself. Welcome to Entrepreneurs the Playbook. I am excited because I have my doppelganger, not by the way he looks, but I think by the way he thinks. Even though I've been rejected by Stanford twice and he was accepted to Stanford, I still get to teach and speak and claim my dear friend John Hennessy as a mentor, one of the finest Stanford inaugural people that I know. But Sahil Bloom has written a book that will change your life. Even Mr. Cook loved it as I do. The New York Times bestselling author, owner of SRB Holdings. I am so excited to have Sahil Bloom with us today. Thanks for joining us, Sahil.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
So you had me at hello, no pun intended, from my Berkeley friends over there. But the book that you've written started with a realization that I had. I'm a 57-year-old mama's boy, and I just lost my mom a few months ago. And my relativity and relationship with my parents as I got older, the realization of it being a finite relationship. I started doing the math. I know you're very quantitative in how you see things with time, etc. But it was shocking when I realized I only had a limited amount of encounters or uh, times that I could see my parents. And so you may not know this about me. The best thing and best advice I give to people about their parents is I still text my mom every day, even though she's passed. I kept her phone number, it's on my plan. And I text her the four things I told her for 18 years every single day: that I am happy, I am healthy, I love you, and I appreciate you. And that healed so much of my mommy issues and built a relationship, especially with my mother. And I was so grateful that I did that and still am. For you, when you came to this single conversation that changed the course of your life, what was it in that finite perspective that had such a paradigm shift for you?
It was just the realization that my entire definition of success, of what it meant to build a wealthy life, had been incomplete. That I had spent the first 7 years of my career focusing on this one thing, that my contentment, my happiness, my fulfillment was on the other side of some achievement, some amount of money, some goal, some bonus, some promotion. And in reality, I had lost sight of the things that were actually much more meaningful for building a good life. I had lost sight of these relationships, of the fact that the amount of time I had with the people that I loved most in the world was this finite. And this realization, this simple math that I had 15 more times to see my parents before they were gone, if I didn't change direction, that was what snapped me back to reality. That was the gut punch that I needed. And I did adjust course. My wife and I, within 45 days, I had left my job. We had sold our house in California and we had moved 3,000 miles across the country to live closer to both of our sets of parents. And that one decision was the catalyst for everything because it was the moment when we decided to reassume agency over our own lives, when we recognized that we were capable of taking action to build our lives around the things that we truly cared about. That number, 15, it's now in the hundreds, like 15 more times before my parents are gone. It's now in the hundreds. I see my parents multiple times a month. They're a huge part of my son, their grandson's life. We had created time. And if you can create time through actions that you take, you can go and change anything about your life.
You and I share that perspective. I personally create non-negotiables, hybrid non-negotiables, and negotiable behavior, understanding physics, quantum physics, and metaphysics, seeing how energy itself aggregates, accelerates, and compounds, and impacts exponentially with the compounding of energy. Time to me is the consistent certainty that I can rely on each and every day. My human experience is from the time my heart starts till it stops, and it's incrementally divided, the human experience, by a certainty, only one, 24 hours a day. And so within the context of spending time with my family also became a reality. My what I call quantum shift didn't happen until later on. I was 38, well beyond making over $100 million, losing it. But for me, this quantum shift of my health, taking care of myself, you are a time billionaire. How do you utilize time in order to take care of yourself beyond the relativity of your parents?
I try to think about what are the things in my life that I want to compound positively. We as humans, especially people who have come up in this like in Western culture, think constantly about the compounding of our finances. We know that putting away a little bit of money today is better than nothing because it's going to stack and compound. It's going to grow into the future. The same exact principle applies to every other area of your life. Small, tiny daily investments in these other areas will stack and compound. So, whenever I look at my life, when I look at my allocation of energy, of where I'm going to deploy my finite, precious energy as a human being, I want to deploy it into things that are going to compound positively in the direction of the life I'm trying to build. When I think about my health, like this is the house that I have to live in for the rest of my life. Well, I want to take care of that house damn well because I want it to show up for me when I'm 70, 80, 90 years old in the way that it can. That requires me to invest in these compounding investments on a daily basis, moving every single day, eating mostly whole unprocessed foods, sleeping enough. If I want to compound my relationships and have good, healthy, strong, lasting relationships, I better tell those people how I feel about them every single day. I better show up for them during their darkest hours, during their times of need, so that they show up for me during mine. Doing those things and viewing life through that lens of compounding is a really tried and true way for building the life that you actually want on the other side.
I love your podcast, The Curiosity Chronicle, and have been involved for way too long in an area that I never thought I would be in as a middle-aged mutant turtle. Someone that did sports radio from my previous life and my previous career to see the importance and the impact that we can have with a podcast. Um, but through curiosity is a concept of being more interested than interesting. And this was a tough lesson as well for me to learn throughout my career with early success and continual success, with maybe some narcissistic or ego based tendencies. You talk about a scoreboard, and a lot of times I believe that the scoreboard's broken, as you mentioned, because of the lack of curiosity, the lack of interest, and scorekeeping can set us into the wrong perspective. It is important to measure things. You and I, like I said, are sharing a quantitative analysis of this human experience. But beyond the measurements, how does curiosity interplay within the broken scoreboard and the importance of measurement?
Curiosity is a fountain of youth. I mean, scientifically, curiosity, enhanced curiosity, it leads to a reduction in all cause mortality. It actually helps you live longer. And yet, when you look at the course of a normal person's life, curiosity peaks in childhood and then basically is in this gradual decline or steep decline in a lot of cases. I personally believe that that is much more about the fact that as adults, we do not create space in our lives to engage with our curiosity. I might become curious about something during the course of a day, but if then I have to immediately go into paying bills, sending emails, phone calls, a bunch of work, taking out the trash, a million responsibilities, and I don't have pockets of space in my life, well, I can't engage with that curiosity in any way. I can't go down that rabbit hole in the way that a toddler or a young child can. So, part of this is about creating little bits of space, ventilating your calendar, if you will, breathing a little bit of air, whether it's 5 minutes here and there, 15 minutes here and there, an hour once a week, something where you can actually create the space to engage with curiosity. When you engage with curiosity, you start to uncover what your real purpose is in life. It starts to uncover these acts of service that you can do for the world around you and for other people, which are the tried and true path to achieving more lasting fulfillment and happiness when you're acting for others. It helps you grow as a human being. That growth begets more growth. It begets a positive sensation, a feeling of agency over your life, the ability to take an action and create a desired outcome. All of these positive things stem from your ability to create the space in your life to go down those rabbit holes, to pursue your curiosities, just as a young child would.
So interesting as studying Einstein and understanding space itself. And the music is made between the notes, and that is the space in which curiosity as well exists, and the interest that we can provide, the attention. I'm the chairman of the Napoleon Hill Institute, and paying attention and giving intention and having a definiteness purpose is so aligned. One of the conflicts that I found, and I think you had this paradigm shift after 7 years, is our relationship with goals. Hyper competitive person like yourself and myself, very goal oriented. I'm sure your parents probably had some influence in goal setting. For me, I talk about the predisposition of surrender, working with people like Michael Singer and other people in the aspect of non attachment of emotion to outcomes. You have created the concept of an anti-goal, along with what I believe lowering the bar. But anti-goals can be a great way to avoid a terrible fate that so many people have not been able to reconcile between their human experience and the infinite spiritual journey that they're on. What is this concept of anti-goals, and why is it so powerful in avoiding this interference that so many humans create for themselves?
So in the book, I share this quote from Charlie Munger, which is one of my favorite quotes. It's all I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there. This is the idea, kind of funny, of identifying the places where you are going to lose yourself, the places where you are going to, risk life and limb in whatever way. That is the concept of anti goals in a nutshell. It is about identifying as you pursue these mountaintops, these goals that you have, the summits of these mountains. You want to know what you are not willing to sacrifice in your pursuit of those goals. So I might want to become the CEO of the company. That's my goal. My anti goal might be spending 300 nights out of the year away from my family. I want to achieve the goal, but not if it means having this anti goal become real. It creates the guardrails, if you will, for this journey. It's what allows you to win the battle of the goal, but also the much bigger picture war of the life that you are really trying to build.
And aligned with that as well is a story that you tell in the book. You can hold it up again so everybody can see, and where to get, everywhere available, the five types of wealth. In the concept of the five types of wealth, you share a story about an investment banker and a fisherman. And it really brings these concepts to life. Would you mind sharing that story with us?
Yeah, an investment banker goes and travels down to this small Mexican fishing village. And he's walking along the docks and he comes across this fishing boat, old rundown fishing boat with a few fish in it. And he asks the fisherman, "How long did it take you to catch those fish?" The fisherman says, "Only a little while." The banker says, "Why didn't you fish for longer?" The fisherman says, "Well, I have everything I need. In the morning, I fish for a little while. Then I go home. I have lunch with my wife. Then I take a nap. Then in the evening, I go into town, drink wine, play music, and laugh with my friends." And the banker's like, "You got this all wrong. Here's what you got to do. You got to fish for longer so you can catch more fish. Then you use that money to buy a second boat, then a third boat, then a fourth boat, then a fifth boat, then a sixth boat. Eventually, you have an entire fishing enterprise. You move to the big city, you take your fishing enterprise public, and you're going to make millions." And the fisherman says, "And then what?" And the banker says, "And then what? And then you can retire and move to a small fishing town. You can fish for a little while in the morning, then you can go home, have lunch with your wife, then you can take a nap, then in the evening you can go into town, drink wine, play music, and laugh with your friends." And the fisherman just smiles and walks off. That story is traditionally interpreted as being about the banker being wrong and the fisherman being right. But I really think it's more nuanced than that. It is about the fact that the two have a fundamentally different definition of what it means to have enough. It is perfectly okay and reasonable for the banker's definition of enough to be about building something big, creating jobs, chasing this grand ambition and purpose. But for him to apply that map of reality to the fisherman's terrain makes no sense, because the fisherman's already living his definition of enough. And yet, that is what we do when we take out our phones and we compare our lives to other people. We allow other people's maps of reality to impact how we feel about our terrain. The antidote to that is to get very clear on what you want your life to look like. What is your vision for the life you are truly trying to build? Because when you are abundantly clear about what that life looks like, you are no longer chasing someone else's definition of more.
In the idea of abundance, in the idea of more than enough of everything for everyone, lies these lessons and these stories that have incredible income, and you share them in such a great way in the five types of wealth, which is truly a transformative guide to design in really having the design of your own life. To finish up, uh, one of the concepts that was so interesting as I study my relationship to circumstance, I try to train people to have non-negotiable behavior to take circumstance out of the equation. So minimum of time on the five necessities to live a human experience, like you mentioned: sleep, food, hydration, movement, and breathing. There's an idea of the life razor, and the life razor really creates an interesting, it should, it spoke about in your podcast, The Curiosity Chronicle, a relationship with circumstance and the difficulty that people have with clarity, decision making, prioritization, which is the antidote to feeling overwhelmed, or procrastination, two of the biggest problems we see. There's a lot of chaos in this circumstance. Uh, how can people utilize the idea of the life razor in order to have the clarity and harmony, focus, and prioritization that creates the passion, purpose, and profitability that you talk about, not only on your podcast, but in your book?
So, the life razor, I would argue, is one of the most impactful ideas in this entire book. It is the concept of having a single identity defining statement of how your ideal self shows up in the world during this season of life. Like it allows you to cut through the noise in these chaotic situations that come up in your life because you can turn to this statement and say, okay, let me turn on that version of myself. To give you an example, my version of it is that I will coach my son's sports teams. That is my life razor. That is not about specifically the act of coaching anything. It is about the type of person who does that and all of the ripples that that creates. What that means in all of these other areas of my life. It means that I'm the type of person that prioritizes family, my relationship with my son, with my wife. It means that I'm a good community member that people are proud to have around. It means that I am never going to jeopardize my character or my reputation for some financial gain along the journey. And so, what I can do with that statement is say, anytime some new opportunity or chaos comes into my life, what would the type of person who coaches his son's sports teams do in this situation? I can turn on that switch to my ideal self. I can turn on that version and respond to the situation with that in mind. That concept, identifying your own through the exercise in the book and coming to terms with that so that you have it in front of you so that you can turn it on in those situations, is a path to living a better life.
First, there were the 81 verses of the Tao, which means the way. And throughout time, from Sanskrit on, there's been great authors, great educators, great leaders, mentors, and teachers. And one of those people in my life is Sahil Bloom. He's written a book to help guide us to design our lives in fulfillment, passion, purpose, and profitability. The five types of wealth will help guide us all through lessons and stories to share a perspective of gratitude, of empathy, accountability, and inspiration. This book and his podcast, The Curiosity Chronicle, allows us to be more interested than interesting, allow us to utilize a framework to live a life of values and prioritize those values as non-negotiable or circumstantial. To have control and certainty in a life that is full of chaos is a dream of so many people in what they do personally and professionally. He's one of my favorite time billionaires, one of my favorite authors, and has written a book which I will read multiple times to help guide me and guide others. Sahil Bloom, thank you for joining me.
Thanks so
Thank you
much,
for your
David. Take
patience.
care.
You got it. I'm so blessed to have another time billionaire in my neighborhood for joining me on Entrepreneurs, the Playbook.